Kappo Kaken absolutely steals one. William Eklund gets off the schneid. Mario Ferraro leaves the game, and Bob McKenzie releases his midseason list. So all that and more on today's episode.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, contributor at San Jose Hockey Now. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everyday, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And the Sharks, 2-game winning streak, beating the SoCal teams. Saturday beat the Ducks. Tonight they beat the LA Kings 4-3 in a shootout. And this was very much thanks to Kappo Kakenen's outstanding performance. So we're going to talk about Kahkonen. We're going to talk about William Eklund getting off the schneid, Mario Ferraro leaving the game with an injury, and kind of what the might happen there if Ferraro is expected to be out for any kind of period of time. And the Bob father himself dropped his list. So we'll dive into Bob McKenzie's list as we're still, even though the Sharks have won 2 games in a row, we're still full steam ahead on the tank. And the Sharks, still control the number 1 spot. And the Penguins keep starting to lose some games. So before we get into all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you guys by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. And I know the Sharks are right back at it Tuesday night, playing the Rangers at home. If you can't make the game, you can still listen on the SiriusXM app, where you can catch every shot, every hit, every goal from your Sharks hometown broadcast with the SiriusXM on SXM app. Search Sharks. So Sharks win 4-3 in a shootout. And I think we have to start with Kappo Kaken. As much as I want to talk about Eklund, you have to start with Kappo Kaken, who was absolutely outstanding tonight. I know I usually talk about the numbers and stuff a little bit later, especially with the goalies, but Kappo Kaken just was under siege all night tonight. 43 saves on 46 shots. He just, I know the penalty at the end of the game, terrible play where he's trying to clear the puck up and off the glass, misses, goes over then of course the delay of game penalty, and the Kings, of course, they score right there and like 10 seconds into the power play and to tie the game up at 3-3. But the Sharks would not have been in this situation if it wasn't for Kappo Kahkonen playing his ass off tonight. He, especially that first period when the Kings came out and just put it to the Sharks, to be honest. The first period, again, I know I usually go for the numbers later, but all situations, the Kings had expected goals for of 1.91 in the first period. Just absolutely highway robbery by Kappo Kaken all night. Even overtime, Fiala tries to wait him out, and Kappo Kaken says no. Like right there, the kind of that first shift of overtime. The Sharks are we're going to have some time here coming up. The Sharks are going to have, where we're going to be able to kind of dive into some of these issues and questions and stuff. But the Sharks are going to have a major Kappo Kaken question to answer on, do they want to keep him around? Because teams are going to be asking for him, right? Last year of his deal, he's played outstanding. I think he has like the 3rd highest high danger save percentage in the NHL among qualifying goalies. I think it's like 1,000 minutes. So it's a large sample size. Kappo Kaken has been absolutely outstanding this year, and teams are going to be asking for him. I mean, look at the LA Kings, right? They've been having to start Big Save Dave for a big stretch, and they're or a team like Toronto, right? They're having to rely on Martin Jones. Like there's gonna be a lot of teams kind of kicking the tires on Kappo Kaken to kind of either come in and solidify their goaltending position or give them some depth behind their starter, and or at least that way they can maybe rest their starter going down the stretch. But he was absolutely stellar tonight, and all the credit to him, especially with how poor he played last year. He has been amazing this year for the most part. And tonight, the Sharks do not win this game without Kappo Kaken sitting on his head for good chunks of the game. So credit to Kaken and the way he's worked and the way he's kind of battled to figure things out here. And yeah, so we'll plenty of time to discuss Kappo Kaken, and especially when, again, gonna have some time here, and I think I'll probably do a full on Kappo Kahkonen episode. So let's continue though with our William Eklund scoring a goal, much needed a goal. He was absolutely on fire tonight. Quinn started him on the third line, and I talked about yesterday about him being potentially press box. Credit to David Quinn, right? One of those, maybe those little bit learning lessons that as a coach, and knowing how hard Eklund has worked. And yes, he's had some up and down games, but knowing a guy like kind of knowing Eklund and where he's at and trying to kind of build that confidence, right? Start him on the third line. I'm sure he talked to him, be like, hey, we're going to start you on the third line. And he came out and said this to the media, right? So I assume he talked to Eklund about this, but started him on the third line. Hey, we want to try to get you going against some easier matchups, see if we can kind of build your confidence up. And then when you're ready, we'll put you back up. Guess what? He was awesome tonight. Just running around, doing William Eklund things, had that absolute beautiful snipe of a goal set up by, Jan Ruda doing good work, winning a 50-50 battle. Puck gets out, and Nico Sturm catches it basically, and it's off to the races there. And Eklund could have had a couple other ones tonight. He was all over the place, and you saw he was rewarded for his efforts, because by the third period, guess who's on the top line with Zetterlund and Hertl? William Eklund. Guess who's starting the overtime? William Eklund with Logan Couture. Like Eklund, he's getting penalty kill time. This is, I think, one of those learning things that Quinn has kind of, maybe not kind of press boxing guys right away, letting some of these young guys kind of work through some of their problems. And Eklund rewarding Quinn for that trust tonight and for that loyalty. Good to see. Now, can you keep it going, right? Sharks have 4 more games before the start of the kind of their bye and the All-Star break here. It'd be nice to see Eklund continue to play well, especially, they're going to be playing the Rangers. Big game, and I know the Rangers have been kind of struggling, but Rangers are going to be well rested. They're already in San Jose. You've got some games here where it'd be nice to see Eklund continue to produce and play well as, kind of hit this stretch hard before you go into the All-Star break. So kind of empty the tank, right? Especially going before the All-Star break. So and then, of course, the other big news is Mario Ferraro leaving the game. I know some people online said it was a dirty hit. I don't think it was a dirty hit, but if you didn't see it, basically him and the forward, they're both kind of racing for a puck, and at the boards, and they get their feet kind of tangled, and Ferraro's foot goes awkwardly into the board. Struggles to put any weight on it. Kind of having to crawl, kind of hop back to the bench. Leaves the bench between the second and third period. He comes out, gives it a little circle around the faceoff, and it goes back into the dressing room, and they quickly say he's done for the night. And I think Quinn even said he's probably going to miss a couple games, so that leaves Fabian Zetterlund as the only Shark who's going to have played every game so far. Zetterlund continuing to be just a great season out of Fabian Zetterlund. But so with Ferraro potentially leaving, Kalen Addison is the only other defenseman on the Sharks roster. with them being home, the Barracuda also being back home with their game. They finished up their road trip in Colorado on Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Shark defenseman get called up, especially if Mario Ferraro is going to be out for a little bit. They would have to make a roster they would have to put somebody on IR because they are still at 23 out of 23. Or you could send down like Scott Sabourin because you're at 14 forwards. Maybe you send down a guy like Scott Sabourin to go back and help the Barracuda. I doubt they bring Mukamadulin up, but maybe you bring up a guy like Radim Shimmick. You could bring I know Gavanke has been kind of in and out. It kind of hurt here a little bit. I would say Shimmick or Nikolai Knyzhov, who both I think Knyzhov's been playing much better recently down there. Maybe you bring up one of those guys to kind of help insulate you, and then let Thrun and Ruda and those guys kind of carry the load a little bit. So we'll get into the numbers here in a minute, but again, I think with Ferraro being out for any extended period of time, you're going to have to try to bring someone up, and maybe just Kalen Addison comes back into the lineup. So we'll dig into the numbers and look at kind of how great Kappo Kaken played in this game. And then we'll talk about Bob McKenzie's list here in just a minute. The big game is like 2 weeks away, and maybe you want to go to Vegas to catch it, especially if a certain 49ers team is playing in said game. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater events right now. Also, users can get $100 off when they buy a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Thing I love about Game Time is they show you what you're going to pay right off the bat, right? Some places you go to check out and they slam a bunch of fees on top of you. Game Time doesn't do that. They have all-in pricing shown up front, so you know exactly what you're paying when you go to check out. You can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps, and they're obsessed with finding ways to help save you money on tickets. They have exclusive flash deals, sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Right now, all Game Time users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Or if you're not going to the big game, you still want to go check out an event. Maybe you want to go to a Sharks game, go to a Warriors game, something like that. Use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's dig into the numbers behind this game. And it very much was LA kind of controlling the pace of this game, and the Sharks really kind of hanging on. But credit to the Sharks, they kind of picked their spots in this game, especially that second period was a very even period between the two teams. But shot attempts at 5v5, we had 52 minutes of 5v5 time, 79-51 in favor of the Kings, 60.77 to 39.23 Corsi for. Actual shots was 39-23 at 5v5. Scoring chances for 39-23 as well in favor of the Kings. High danger chances 17-10. Expected goals for 5v5 3.37 to 1.74 in favor of the Kings. Like I said, that first period was very much all Kings. They had 29-12 shot attempts, 17-5 actual shots, 17-7 scoring chances. The 1.73 to 0.64 expected goals for, all in favor of the Kings. But Kaapo Kahkonen kept the Sharks in it, has some huge saves there, and the Sharks kind of rewarded him for his efforts, right? And that second period was much more even, and the Sharks took advantage of that, right? And that's what the Sharks are doing is, well, we're going to take your best shots, and then we're going to try to kind of come back in and do what we can. It's almost like the Homer boxing, where he just stands there and kind of gets the crap kicked out of him and waits until the other team gets really tired, and then he just kind of pushes them over. That's the Sharks in this game, and they they let the Kings tire themselves out in the first period, and then they kind of took advantage in the second period, and then the Kings got a second breath there and some second wind. In the third period, the Kings, again, being down, Kings really kind of push the pace and again took advantage, especially at 5v5. 30 shot attempts of 14 in favor of the Kings in the third. 4 to 11 scoring chances in favor of the Kings. 1 to 4 high like Kings were really, really good tonight. Just got a little bit unlucky. And big save Dave, if he probably wants the goal back on Bailey, Justin Bailey. Kick and fly. He is kid's a freak of nature. He's the fastest kid alive. But I mean, good to see the Sharks win. I know people are getting mad about losing the tank, et cetera, et cetera. Had some wiggle room. This is going to be, again, it doesn't matter if you're ahead of the Blackhawks by 1 point or 30 points, you got the same odds. So, and the Blackhawks are going to get Bedard back at some point. It's fine. We'll probably tomorrow we'll look at the schedules of the two and kind of see where the Sharks have some opportunity to maybe make up some ground. So, lines are a little bit of a mess because of the line juggling. So we had Zetterlund, Hertl, Hoffman, which started. Barabanov, Couture, Declare, Eklund, Sturm, Cunnin, Zadina, Carpenter, Bailey, and then Eklund ended up going up to play with Hertl in the third period. The Hertl line, they played 940, 9 to 11 shot attempts. Actual shots was 3 to 5 in favor of the Kings. Gave up 2 goals there. And then remember the Zetterlund goal was not 5v5. It was it's not 5v5. It's still even strength, but not 5v5, if that makes sense. So that goal does not count for, at least when you dig into these numbers here, because the Sharks had the goalie pulled as with the delayed penalty. But 0.26 to 0.35 expected goals for, 5 to 6 scoring chances, 2 to 2 high danger chances, 3-4-3 with the zone starts. The Eklund Sturm Cunnin line, 804, 6 to 11 shot attempts, 2 to 4 actual shots, did have the 1 goal. 0.21 to 0.35 expected goals for, 2 to 3 scoring chances, 1 to 3 high danger chances, with 1-6-2 zone starts. I was really curious to see Eklund's usage tonight. And again, Quinn was true to his word. Want to try to set him up for success. I know they kind of got outshot and stuff, but I thought you could tell Eklund just kind of was taking advantage of kind of playing third line minutes, or kind of second or third pairing defenseman. So Quinn's plan worked. Barabanov, Couture, Declare played 758, 13 to 12 shot attempts, 6 to 7 actual shots, 0.46 to 0.31 expected goals for, 6 to 3 scoring chances, 3 to 3 high danger chances, and then 4-3-2 zone starts. So Couture, that line, I felt like at the beginning of the game kind of struggled a little bit, but they kind of got things going as the game went on. And Couture, you can kind of see Barabanov, I thought, has been playing better, getting paired with Couture. And it's good to see these guys, kind of getting things going. And I think you're going to kind of see that as Couture gets more and more comfortable. I would still, again, with Couture, I think they're still going to kind of keep the training wheels on him for maybe the first, I would say probably at least through the All-Star break, right? Monitors minutes, keeping tabs on him. And then maybe once they get out of the All-Star break, probably let Couture get full bore with him. But Couture's been out there playing penalty kill minutes. He's been playing, power play minutes. Like he's been kind of, again, they're probably going to be still pretty careful with him. So I would, especially tomorrow on the second night of a back-to-back, I'm curious to see kind of Couture's minutes there. Zadina Carpenter Bailey played 622, 10 to 11 shot attempts, 4 to 5 actual shots. Did have the goal for Justin Bailey, the fastest kid alive, freak of nature. 0.3 to 0.65 expected goals, 4 in favor of the Kings, 5 to 7 scoring chances, 2 to 2 high danger chances. A lot of defensive zone starts for those guys. So, and then the Eklund Hurdle Zetterlund line played 331. 2 to 1 shot attempts, 2 to 1 actual shots. So tiny sample size there. Quickly, the defenseman, again, there's not going to be the prettiest because of, again, the disparity between the shot attempts and shots on goal. Ferraro and Ferraro, 60% Corsi 4, and there's 2 periods of play. Vlasic 26 50% Corsi 4. Been playing with Ferraro, and Vlasic has looked pretty solid the last couple games here now that he's kind of gotten things going a little bit, and I think he's maybe kind of settled in a little bit with this year. And I know it's been a very tough year for him off the ice, et cetera, but it seems like kind of Vlasic is maybe settled in, and he's been playing pretty decently so far. Burrows, 19 to 29 shot attempts, 39.58. Corsi 4. Ohochuk, 9 to 20 shot attempts, 31.03. Thrun, 13 to 31 shot attempts, 29.55. And Ruda, 15 to 38 shot attempts, 28.30. Thrun, I know those numbers are not flattering, but I like Thrun's game tonight. And you noticed in overtime who was the first defenseman out there. It was Henry Thrun. It was basically the only defenseman that Quinn trusted because he was just running with 3 forwards, except for when Henry Thrun was out there. So again, tough night when it comes to the shot disparity, but I loved watching Thrun's game tonight, just how cool and calm he is with the puck and kind of making those decisions. Thrun, the Sharks got to keep Henry Thrun. So we'll talk about some potential future Sharks with Bob McKenzie's midseason list here in just 1 second. We're past the halfway point of the season, Sharks fans, and I know it's been tough. Regardless of the Sharks being dead last in standings, I still want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. So all you have to do is pick some of your favorite players, whether they're NHL superstars like McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, or some of your favorite Sharks like Tomas Hertl, Slippery Pete, or Fabian Zetterlund, and record more or less than their Sleeper projections for things like goals, saves, assists, plus minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Sharks fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, let's finish up with the Bob McKenzie's list. So if you're unaware of who Bob McKenzie is, kind of what happens. So Bob McKenzie is kind of like the grandfather of kind of scouting lists, et cetera, for the NHL. But his big thing is, everyone can make a list, right? Our good friends, Patty and Tony Ferrari and all these guys, they make their own personal lists from guys that they want. And Bob McKenzie, he makes his lists a little bit differently because he talks to NHL scouts and he gets kind of what their list is and he compiles them together. So you're kind of getting a more true list because you're getting lists from different, from actual NHL scouts and kind of actual NHL teams. So that's why his list is kind of such a big deal, is because it's what you get a glimpse of what the NHL teams are thinking, especially in this year, right? If you missed my episode with Tony Ferrari, it's basically Macklin Celebrini, and then a lot of question marks, and right, even the list what we see now to what we could see in a couple, in a couple weeks, couple months up until June, it's going to change a bunch. So Let's kind of go through some of the names to kind of know, right? So Macklin Celebrini, of course, he says 100% he's the number one guy, and it's hard for him to, other than like a catastrophic injury, it's hard for him to not see Celebrini as being the number one guy. And you can check out his whole, he's got a nice little write up here, etc. But he kind of talks about Celebrini as, he's not a generational player like we see with like Connor Bedard, but he's a franchise player. And he kind of says he reminds him a lot of Sidney Crosby. Again, he's not Sidney Crosby. Right? Sidney Crosby is a generational player who changed the Pittsburgh Penguins franchise, et cetera, right? Sid the Kid, we know Sidney Crosby, even at, I think he's 38 now. It's still just, I guess Sidney Crosby is my age. Oh my God. Anyway, Sidney Crosby's still just pumping out like just insane seasons, right? But Celebrini has a lot of traits of Sidney Crosby. He actually calls him a lowercase Crosby, so like a poor man's Crosby, of kind of that, like constantly working on his game, just kind of the way he goes about his business. So also Jonathan Toews is another guy who really talked about. He did mention potentially Celebrini going back to BU next season. And it's not the craziest thing in the world, and that we have plenty of time to discuss that later on. But just interesting with Celebrini. If you haven't, go check it out on TSN, his whole article. But Celebrini, of course, is number one. Anton Silyev is a 6'7" defenseman in the KHL, who's got 3 goals and 11 points in 52 games. He's 6'7". He's a big boy. So Artem Levshnov, excuse me, from Michigan State. He's number 3 defenseman, 6'2", 208 pounds, with 26 points in 24 games for Michigan State. And hint, hint, wink, wink, there might be more discussion on him later this week. Cole Eiserman, the presumed number 2 pick, is actually going into the season number 4, who's got 55 points in 31 games for the USNTDP program. And then Caden Lindstrom, the WHL center for Medicine Hat, is number 5. Ivan Demidov is number 6. Sam Dickinson, the defenseman out of London, is number 7. Consta Helenis, the center out of the Liga, is number 8. Zane Parikh, the defenseman out of Saginaw, is number 9. Berkeley Canton, the center out of Spokane in the WHL, is number 10. So that's your top 10. Some of the other guys to kind of just, as the Penguins are still kind of floating around that 14, 15, I think as of right now, they're 13th. That's good, right? You want the Penguins 11 through 15. You're feeling really good if you're a Sharks fan in that range. So just some of the guys in that. Trevor Conley is number 11, left winger out of the USHL. Kater Yamachuk, the defenseman out of Calgary in the WHL. Z Boom, the Denver defenseman, who had a great World Juniors. Adam Urich, the Czech defenseman, who I really, really like, but is hurt. Emil Hemming, the right winger out of Liga. And then a Ginless kid, man. Left winger out of Kelowna in the WHL, number 16. And then Liam Greentree, right winger out of the OHL in Windsor. So just some of the guys to get to know. And then at the very kind of back end, guys who might be there for the Sharks' first pick, or if the Devils make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So you have at 30, Cole Bajoun, center out of the OHL. Lucas Pedersen, center out of Modo in the junior 20s. You have Dean Laternov, who's a high school kid, 6'6" center. Oh my goodness. That's a big boy. Jesse Pulkkinen, defenseman in Liga Junior. Nikita Artemonov in the KHL left winger. That's at number 34. Maxim Massey, right winger in the Q. Michael Haig, a forward in Chicago USHL, the Chicago Steel, which pumps out prospects. Macklin Celebrini famously played for them. They just pump out a bunch. I think Brisson played for them. They pump out a lot of guys, so they're always really good. And then Henry Muse, Ottawa OHL defenseman as well. So Cole Hudson, if you want another defenseman of that breed, also at 41. Short. If he's anything like his brother Lane, sign me up, because Lane Hudson is an absolute fun to watch. So just, again, plenty of time to start kind of digging into these guys. We'll have our first one coming up later this week with someone who's been on the show but hasn't done the draft profile. So that's what I'm going to leave it at. So that'll be coming up later this week. So make sure you guys are following along wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. We'll be back tomorrow to break down the Rangers game. And again, we're going to be starting our draft profiles this week. We'll have some more, especially because the Sharks don't play again after Tuesday. They don't play again until Sunday. So we have Saturday, excuse me. So we have some fun this week where we can kind of, dig into some draft stuff, dig into some prospects, maybe start digging into the trade deadline a little bit here. So you're going to want to make sure you're following along. Also, you can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Until tomorrow, bye, friends.